Hello, welcome to gagrul.net. My name is Wally Sarkisian with Armenian Historian Ara Papyan. I'm not going to name his other titles because today we're going to talk to him as a historian. And he has been very fun of Woodrow Wilson. And so we'll see what we learn today from him. Today is November 22, and 1920 something happened, and he's going to explain that. Ara Papyan, welcome back.
Thank you. 102 years ago, on November 22nd, 1920, Woodrow Wilson, 28th President of the United States, signed the arbitral award on a Turkish-Armenian border. And that award was countersigned by Bainbridge Colby, State Secretary, and sealed with the Great Seal of the United States, which means from the date of the signing, it became as a binding international and domestic document for the United States and for the other parties of the arbitral award. The other parties were British Empire, Italy, and France, who signed the compromise, the application to Woodrow Wilson to define the border. A little bit, let me tell the history, how it happened and why. But first I would like to say I'm interested more in this subject, not as a historian, but as a diplomat, because yes, it happened in history 100 years ago, but this document until now is a valid document, regardless the age and so many events that passed over this document. Okay, when at the end of 1918, First Ottoman Empire signed an armistice on October 30, 1918. Then you know the last was Germany on November 11th, the same year. Beginning from January 1919 in Paris, around over than 50 countries gathered to decide on the treaties of peace with Germany, Austro-Hungary, Bulgaria, and Turkey. So they began from Germany, Versailles Treaty, and then the last one was the Ottoman Empire. And the treaty with the Ottomans was signed. It's a famous treaty, Treaty of Sevres, on August 10, 1920. But before that, even since January 1920, the Armenian issue, the issues dealing with Ottoman Empire began to be discussed during Paris Peace Conference. First, the League of Nations, which was created just on January 10, 1920, discussed the border, special commission, the border of Armenia with Azerbaijan and Armenia with Georgia. And this special commission came out with so-called report proposals on the boundary of Armenia and Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia. The second issue was the border with Turkey. So on May 17, three members of the big powers, as I mentioned, British Empire, France, and Italy, signed an application and sent the application to the President of the United States for him to decide the border. I would like to mention that arbitral awards are final and cannot be renegotiated or rediscussed. When it enters into force, it's final and binding. So after receiving the application, which was signed on April 26, On May 17, Woodrow Wilson gave his agreement. He agreed to be an arbitrator, and he put together special commission headed by William Wasserman, American professor, and there were some representatives from Ministry of War, State Secretary, and his own staff. The commission began the elaborations until November, and on 22nd, the document was signed. As I told, it entered into. Unfortunately, just after 10 days, on December 2nd, 1920, Armenia was occupied by joint forces of Turkey and Russia, divided between them, and then next year a Treaty of Moscow was signed to finalize the dissolution of the Armenian statehood. Nevertheless, the documents, despite that Armenian statehood was dissolved, the document is there, and after regaining or restoring Armenian independence, Armenia, as a successor state to the First Republic, has the right to pursue the documents and to restore the territorial integrity of the Armenian state, which was violated by Turkey and Russia, as I told 100 years ago. This is in brief general description of the document. Later we can go into details if you want.
Okay, so where is Woodrow Wilson played the role? Is just
he is the main arbitrator. The arbitral award done on his name, and he signed the document. And because he was at that time head of the state, it was sealed also with United States Great Seal, which means that the United States are under obligation to fulfill this international document, arbitration. By the way, when in 1927 the Congress discussed the issue of restoring diplomatic relations with Turkey, the proposal was rejected. And one of the bases of the rejections, one of the reasons, was that Turkey failed to implement the arbitration. And until now, there is no legal document restoring diplomatic relations between Turkey and the United States, which means that what we have de facto is it's illegal de jure, which also shows us that even in 1927, after many treaties, Moscow Treaty, Kars Treaty, before that Alexandropol Treaty, anyway, the arbitration stayed in power because, as I told, it's a binding and final.
Interesting. Is those documents do you have access to?
Yes, I published the full text of the document in 2011. We have translated it and published in Spanish, in Russian, in Turkish. We have the German translation already ready, and we are in a process of translating into Arabic.
Wow.
It's very difficult to do because it's a legal document with a lot of legal terms. I tried to translate into Armenian. It was very hard, but the main problem was the shortage. But let's say in English, you have compensation, restitution, and so many other words. In Armenian, just one word. It's hatutsum, and nothing more. But in English, because British law was so diverse. There are so many, and this is what it's great problem translating into Armenian. And if one day I will do, I for sure will put the English term just close to Armenian term to make people understand what kind of hatutsum we are talking about. Uh, Unfortunately, I was surprised that Armenians are almost 100 years in 2011, and it was 2 years before that I went to National Archives and Records Administration of the United States. It's the main National Archive, state archive, and made a copy. I surprised to understand that at least for 50 years before that, nobody took the document in his hands. Nobody was interested, because it's really strange, because Armenians spent so much time, money, efforts on genocide recognition, instead of spending all this on these legal documents on which we can base our demands. Because genocide recognition is not the final goal. It's some kind intermediate. It's a mean to get to the main point, which is to get what was stolen for us, be it property or land or some kind of heritage items. But my understanding is the right way is go through legal documents and through international courts, namely International Court of Justice, which usually called United Nations Court.
Have anybody tried it?
To apply to the court? Not yet, and nobody can do this. It can be done by the Armenian state, because when we say international court, in reality it means interstate court. Nation here it's as a state. In Armenian we say mijazgayin, and this will confuse that this is some kind of dispute between ASGs, between ethnic groups. No, mijazgayin means mijpetakan. The right translation is interstate, mijpetakan. No, unfortunately, all Armenian governments were keeping far away themselves from these documents for several reasons, because it's the easiest way not to do anything. Secondly, they are saying, okay, it's very hard, it will take time, how it's possible, it is impossible, and so on. But one of the reasons is that Armenia always was under Russian control, and the Russians have their written and non-written agreements with Turks. The written agreement is Moscow Treaty, unwritten so many times, that they have to keep Armenians under their control and not allow them really to begin their fight for their rights and demands. I have suspicion that in mid-60s, when Armenians began fighting not for their lands, before that they were always the slogans Armenian lands, merhogera, merhogera. And somebody pushed forward the idea recognition of genocide. And Armenians shift their all efforts on the recognition of genocide instead of hogere, hogere, and so. And this is why Turks and Russians were standing in the corner and were laughing on Armenians, seeing how much they spent on the idea, which actually is fruitless, because recognition of the genocide, even by the Turkey, will give nothing to Armenia and Armenians. because this recognition is not binding. Secondly, recognition does not mean a compensation. Some people put some kind of parallel between Armenian genocide and Jewish Holocaust, thinking that all this compensation Israel was getting because of Holocaust. No, there is not such a thing. There was an agreement, so-called Luxembourg Agreement from 1952 between Germany and Israel, and Germany compensated Israel for aliyah, for repatriation of the Jews to Israel. It was not a payment for the blood. It was compensation for the expenses or some other thing, compensation for unfair work and so on, but not ever. And in Holocaust, you do not have the issue of territory, because Jewish Holocaust happened not in the fatherland of Jews. It's happened with diaspora. Not actually at that time they were just diaspora. A small portion of Jewish people were living in Palestine. The majority was in diaspora. In Armenia, we have the other story, when the Armenians were killed on their land, and one of the main goals of Turks to confiscate the land from private persons, to give it to Kurds and Turks, also to occupy the territories which legally belonged to Armenian newly created state.
How many other Armenian historians agree with you?
You see, even in your question, there is understanding that it is something historical question. It nothing has to do with history. The problem is that usually with Armenian genocide and rights, we are dealing Armenian historians. They were telling stories and stories and stories. When you read a book about the negotiations, let's say how Levon Shant went to Moscow to negotiate, he went to funeral of his uncle and so on, this kind of story, but no mentioning, let's say, that Moscow Treaty is illegal because according international law, the parties to sign a treaty must be at that time subjects of international law, which means that first the specialist expert of international law must deal with this. But nevertheless, they have to know the history, all these details when I'm saying. And happened in this way that either we have people who know the historical facts, or we have people who know international law, but nothing about Armenian history, about so many details, because the details are very important here. What was before, which kind of documents were signed, and so on. And I see my mission, what I am doing now, almost for 14 years, not only I published the Arbitral Award, the main, let's say, book, but also I gathered, accumulated from many archives and published primary sources, hundreds and hundred thousands of pages of documents. And it's very hard to me not only to go through these documents or through these papers and so on, which I already did, or more or less I know what is there. But the problem is that I want them to be prepared to convert from PDF to Word format, to have publication of these documents, to make them accessible to others, because they will not go through libraries and archives, and they will not put together all these documents and pay huge sums of money. It's not cheap. It's $100,000 of dollars, which I spent with help of my friends or from my pocket. But no organization did this. This is another issue. Why these organizations gathering millions and millions of dollars for Armenian issues, say Haydat, I don't know, Hayot Ziravunkner, and so on, but doing some kind of manifestations, and so knowing that these at the finally will not give a result. At the final end, it must be something that must be binding, and the binding, it can be only the decision of the court.
But why can't these things work on two track, both genocide and then what you're doing?
Yeah, it is possible. I met some leaders of some parties. I told them a couple of months ago, you have gathered $5 million for Haydat. Give me 1%. 1%, which means 50,000. I will go on doing this. As you are saying, on both tracks. I am not saying not to do it. I was asking just 1%, even not 10% of that money which was gathered for them. First answer was, you see, they promise, but they do not give such money. I can, okay, will you have they give $3 million? They say, yeah, okay, give me 1% of that 3 million, because I need 12,000 to buy 100 DVDs from National Archives with the documents to go through. Just it's not, I was not asking money for my work, for my time. No, I was just asking money to buy the documents and to show them the invoice. I received the promise, but as you know, promise is promise, but no a dime of money, no a cent.
But you have set up some kind of organization that that you would, if they give you money, where the money goes, because you know money in Armenia has lots of consequences.
Yeah, which organization you mean?
I mean, you set up an organization that so let's say if I want to contribute to your organization, where do people send?
I have that organization from 1996. I have a website. I was disseminating the account number, everything, and so on. It's nothing changed there. It's not. Do you really think I am so naive? I haven't done this.
No. But I'm just asking.
The problem is, you see, the problem is the Armenian organizations will support you if you are under the umbrella. If you are neutral person, do not want to be one, they will not support you. This is reality. Even I told them, everyone, I have published some books, lot of books. If I had a sponsor, always is written, the publication of the book is sponsored by this, in memory of his father, so on. It's not the case, and I always gave the detailed report, all expenses. The problem is that even now, I had no office for at least for 4 years, even not a place to put my books and to do what I was doing. Just a month ago, I got from my friend 2 rooms, small rooms, where I can have some papers and do my work. Even more, I have problem with one of my friends from New York, New Jersey, who said me that who gave before that, I mean before 2018, an office where I organized some special courses and I was doing the research. Then he told me, Putin'i դեմ կխոսիս, ռուսներու դեմ կխոսիս, and he just didn't allow me to get into office, and even worse, he confiscated all my books and my copies of archives, which I paid from my pocket, $1,000. And I'm after waiting 3-4 years, I'm suing him in the court to get back my books, which I paid from my pocket, or it was donation from himself, and it's a written donation. It's a list. He gave the money. I bought for modus vivendi, not personally for me, but now these books are in a way in a grave. I cannot use them because the office is closed. I'm sure that already there are about 5,000 copies of books, volumes of books, but as I heard, half of them already I cannot find, even if I will win in the court. And some of these books were very important, some of them very expensive, but they are in single in Armenia. In Armenian other libraries, it's impossible to find because it wasn't just a number of books.
Is this
created library? What does he need for doing this research?
Is this an individual or this is an organization you're talking about?
I am talking about Raj Gabrielian from New York. He is shareholder of Frank Muller Watches.
So it's individual.
And he is individual, yes. I am suing him, who really helped me previously, but I think that he was put under very strong pressure by Russians and by Turks to make me stop doing what I am doing, because before the Turks contacted me, they promised bribe, big money. I rejected them. Then they decided just doing nothing. And then maybe they overpassed me. They pressured Raj because he is of Turkish Istanbul origin. He has also Turkish citizenship and so on. Then also is very pro-Putin. I don't know why, because he never gets something positive from Putin or Russians. But you see, there are in diaspora a lot of Armenians that just have some kind of imagination of Russian support of Armenians and so on. But my understanding was that, okay, it's up to them, up to him. If he don't want to support me, it's okay. I couldn't imagine that one day he will close the door and my books will be seized, kept him just far from me. Even I told him, you don't need the books. Okay, I have there 28 computers, copy machines. Okay, take all this. I don't want this. Give me my books. Nothing.
Wow.
Okay, we actually have to go back to arbitral award, but it was important saying why the results, which could be much bigger, I cannot give this output because I do not have these documents with me. I do not have the books. I do not have other means to do this.
This is incredible. I don't believe it. So how much damage this Pashinyan, when he says we have no demand on our territory or anything, and he said the genocide is locomotive, is the diaspora, how much damage is that did?
Actually, it can cause really damage, because in international law, there is an understanding, there is a notion which called estopel. Estopel is the situation when you, with your words or your actions, show that you agree, you come to consent with the situation. which means that when you say I do not have any demands, the arbitral award will stay in power. It cannot be changed. But when we go to court, we send an application. Maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe they will say, okay, but your head of the state government told that you do not have any demands, which means it's closed the case. How now you are coming to court and asking to a judgment or something else? This is that it could create problems. I don't know, nobody can predict now, but if he will sign some other documents, it even will be bigger problem, because you know the written texts or written treaties are more important. This is why always during my interviews I am telling him not to sign anything so-called peace treaties, fixing the borders, recognizing the Soviet Armenian administrative borders as international borders. Tell them that we do want peace, we do want to have delimitation and demarcation of our borders. We are ready to do this, but before that, we have to clarify the legal basis to do that, and for that, let's go together to International Court of Justice based on Article 36 of the Statute of International Court of Justice, to understand according which document the border was defined and which document stays in power until now. Because I'm sure that Turks, Russians will say, okay, after the arbitration, Moscow Treaty was signed, Kars Treaty was signed, and so on. But I'm sure that the court will be in our favor, because our position is really, really strong.
So, is this guy, do he contact historians like you on base of this international issue, or who is advising him?
Nobody is advising me. I'm advising myself.
No, not
because
you.
I contacted
No, not
some-
you. Not you. I'm talking about Pashinyan. Who is he consulting?
Pashinyan. Okay. First, in 2003, I approached Kocharian at that time. Being an ambassador, it was easier. I passed him a written text. It was called New Opportunities for Armenian Foreign Relations. Why I did this? Because during our meeting, his meeting with ambassadors, he asked that, okay, think what new kind of possibilities, leverages we can find for our foreign relations. And I wrote some 8-9 pages in more or less in details, in a way a guideline, as now mentioned, a kind of map, what we have to do. But he told, okay, you see, it's better diaspora to be involved and so on. I told him, okay, but we can apply just as a state, not as an organization. And we need to do research to prepare all documents. He said, okay, first, let's you prepare the documents, get a legal assessment from other specialists, and then we'll see. And when I said, you see, it's big expenses, I cannot afford myself to do. He told me exactly what I was telling you. But where are going that millions and millions of dollars for Haidat if you are not receiving anything? Okay, what I could answer. Then I approached to Sarkisian. I gave him my book. We agreed that I will have the presentation of arbitral award during the first Armenia diaspora conference at the end of May 2011, really I was supported by the aides of Sarkisian, his assistants, and I was preparing. I already put PowerPoint projector in the hall to speak in the conference room. Then just around 11 o'clock at the night, I received a call saying that, okay, I cannot speak because there is no time to do so. Okay, I was suspicious that it's not the reason, main reason. And then I understood that when Nalbandian, Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, heard that I will be speaking during that conference, and I will be actually the first to open the conference with this presentation, he said that Russians are against such an efforts. Papyan cannot do this. When the other guys began supporting me, Nalbandian blackmailed others that he will call Moscow and you will see what will happen. And this is, I received the call which told me that there is no time for me to speak. With Pashinyan, I never spoke about this, but I met Zoraid Mnatsakanyan. He's the first Minister of Foreign Affairs, because I know him for many years, as I know Pashinyan for 20 years. I gave in written all these suggestions, but no continuation. Once I was called to a meeting in Security Council. There was a meeting with experts. They were discussing the concept of security concept of Armenia. I told them what they are doing is wrong. It's far from reality. I gave my proposals based on this arbitral award and so. And what was the result? What was the outcome? I never was invited after that to any discussions. They were calling others who told them what they exactly wanted to hear. The concept that concept of security of Armenia was accepted officially on September 11, 2020. And after 16 days, it became irrelevant because the war began, and what was written in these documents, it's just foolish, nice questions, nothing more. This is the short story.
Well, a complicated thing is between Armenia, diaspora, and I think this Pashinyan throws this monkey wrench. It's just so disastrous. Never mind all his crap system. So he just basically he neutralized people like you.
Yes. You see, even during Sarkisian time, it was much easier for me to speak on these issues. I was invited several times on public TV to speak, which I did. I had an opportunity to speak in universities. Even I met at that time with Prime Minister Andranik Manukyan. I convinced him. There was a special order from him to universities to organize Woodrow Wilson's month and to speak about his legacy and so on. But he died, and it was stopped But anyway, it was much easier before Pashinyan to speak. It's now almost, not almost, it's totally impossible. Totally impossible to do.
Yeah. Yeah, he's running like a dictator, so how could you talk to a dictator?
Yeah, you were asking who is advising him. He had, at the beginning of his tenure, two advisors. Arsen Kharatyan, who was advisor for political issues in foreign affairs, and Arsen Gasparian, economic issues of foreign affairs. He fired both of them because they have some kind of disagreement. They were telling that what he was doing it's not right to do. He fired them within the first year, and until now he has no foreign affairs advisors, no one. When he in the morning wakes up, it depends what kind of mood he will be. He will say anything what he wants, he's doing, and then exactly the opposite the next day he will tell.
Yeah.
It depends in what kind of mood he is at that time. He will speak foolish things. Nobody will tell. Let's say his understanding is that we have an agriculture university, and he will say, okay, why the university that the main is the agriculture must be in the city? Let's move this agriculture university to a village or somewhere else. He has no understanding that university education is not only, let's say, when you go to lectures, you go to museums, you go to ballet, you meet people, you read in library the books, and you have to have laboratories and so on. It does not mean that if the research object is agriculture, it's the same thing that you will say that why, let's say, people who do research in history, they must do removed from modern cities into somewhere an old castle and study there because it deals with history. The same thing with foreign affairs. When you ask him or his team, do you have any calculation what would happen with Armenian economics if you open the borders with Turkey without preconditions? Because they think that Armenia will benefit. But all calculations shows that Armenian economy will be just crushed on the Turkish economy. And because we have this disproportionately bigger, larger economy of Turkey and the small and disadvantaged economy in Armenia, and also they can easily dump their prices to so-called dumping, take Armenian market totally, and especially agriculture market, exporting all kind of fruits and vegetables, and 600,000 in Armenia people who are engaged in agriculture, just within a year or two will become poor, and the only way for them will be to leave for Russia from Armenia.
So let's talk about this. Is there a way this guy could be removed from chair where he's backed up by Turkey and Russia? How could you remove it?
With support, unconditional, total, strong support of Armenian people, which we do not have now, unfortunately, because the majority of people, even the people who share our understanding, come to us, say, okay, you are doing the right thing, keep going on, and so other nice words. but they will not come out on the streets, making us uh, much more in numbers, which is very important. Today we had a rally against this Putin's visit and collective and security treaty organization meeting in Armenia, because they betrayed Armenia and so on. The majority of people in Armenia really now understand that CSTO betrayed Armenia. They agree with us, but there were little bit more than 1,000 people with us in this rally.
So
tomorrow we will have another one, and we'll see how many will come out. I think around 2,000 or 3,000.
But do you think those protests, because like this guy Pashinyan, he has this luxury life now, like jet every week, he's going from Moscow, having caviar with Putin, having ice cream with Aliyev, all this luxury life, Mercedes, bodyguard, hundreds of bodyguards. Do you really think even if you put 100,000 people, he's gonna just say, "Oh, I'm gonna resign"? I don't believe so. This guy is not there to resign, and he's backed up by, I showed you, by Turkey and Russia. It's because they like this puppet guy, because he's an idiot. I mean, you could see every time he goes in meeting, he come back, he says, "Oh, they want us to lower down, our demand. Artsakh, it's their problem." Never one day this idiot came, said, I negotiated this, or I did this. Nothing. Every time he goes there, he come back, he give more concession. And he's not gonna resign. This guy is a violent guy. You know that. He's not gonna resign.
I agree with you, but what is your suggestion?
I think only is if you guys talk to military takeover. There is no other way. You guys, I guarantee you, you put 100,000 people in the street, this guy will not resign.
Our military is totally under Russian control. Totally.
Yes.
It's not only under Pashinyan's control, also under Russian control. And you already said that he is supported by Russians because he agrees with everything. Putin tomorrow will come to Armenia. Today he called Aliyev. They spoke. I'm sure they negotiated what he will push Armenia to give a concession, and what he will receive from Turkey and Azerbaijan as a compensation of his efforts. This is reality. Our army is apolitical, Russian controlled, very badly educated, corrupt, and so on. You can find just a few handful of high officers that really they understand what's going on, or they tell themselves they are so brave that they are looking on reality on dice. The majority, not only among the military, also among the diplomats, among officials, saying, okay, why you do care? You could be an ambassador somewhere now, maybe, I don't know, in Japan or in Belgium, sitting there and enjoying your lives. What you are doing so? And why you are pushing us to live this kind of life? Go on the streets where the people call you traitor, a Canadian spy, an agent or a US agent, a Soros grand take or everything. Why you are not going with your Kalashnikov to the border? What your sons are not fighting anything? and do this
Yeah, they keep
for
changing the
not
subject.
getting a cent, and that's why you want us to have that life, miserable life that you are having now. The thing is, you're not only going into fight, you don't not only are deprived of many things, you do not receive even some kind of a thankful attitude from the people. The
So,
people, the majority saying, okay, why you speak against the Russians? Okay, let's be as a Tatarstan in Russia, and it was really will be nice for us. And we're trying to explain them. It's not the issue only independence, which is very important. But Russia is in a process of going down. It's collapsing. He's enemy of the world. You want Armenia be a part of Russia instead of being part of civilized world. But you know the numbers. Democracy has a disadvantage. The
okay,
numbers are important, and the people, the majority are people, unfortunately, are less educated to understand all these kind of messages. Okay.
all right. So, what happened to those 25 generals or 35 who signed letter asking Pashinyan? What happened to them?
Some of them are in the jail because of the corruption, but some of them were just fired. Some of them stayed on their positions till now. It depends. When you want to punish someone, you find you go deeper and find some corruption issues. I has already said Armenian army is deeply corrupted. There are only few high officers there, generals that are not, which means they have some kind of leverage. And especially, which is more unfortunately, especially the part who was in charge of Karabakh, because they were receiving money and they were out of Armenian control. They were receiving money from Armenia, but no reports and no control. And this is why then appeared that in 2020 on the paper we have everything, second, third line of defense, lot of high technology weapons, but nothing in reality. Reality, even no boots, no helmets, nothing.
Okay, so go back. Let's go back to your hard work of this Woodrow Wilson documentation stuff. What is how you summarize in like say 5 minutes? What's gonna happen? Did you give up, or you're working on, or we just said a few minutes ago like Pashinyan?
I will not give up because it's, let's say, the main instrument in the end of Armenian state, the most important. I am now in a process of uh, enlarging my research. I have two paid workers with me, young women who are helping me. I'm trying to have a bigger office where I can invite some volunteers that can help me, because I'm telling that I already had the papers. I need more hands and heads to go through these documents as and to find these small pieces of gold, as when you wash tons and tons sand and find these pieces of gold. The same with this case, put together, publish, and when we'll see that we enough material have gathered, we'll ask some specialists to give the legal assessment. They will not give this without payment, but I'm hopeful that maybe at that time some guys will support me.
How about
But
university?
if I will go on doing this Papyan plus 2 or Papyan plus 1, it will take another 10, 15 years. But I will not survive so long. This is another problem.
Is there, how about the universities? Do they have volunteer they could support you, like come and help you, and you give them some research things to do? Because, like, I talked to they was invited to American University, and they were, in one night, they got $2 million for opening engineering department. So I'm wondering if something you could approach them and let them give you some historian who study this to help you.
First of all, I know in Armenia and abroad who is what doing on. You have to name what historian. We do not have in Armenian reality a person who is a specialist of Armenian these agreements, treaties, and so on. There are no one.
Wow.
I gave a lot of material to Genocide Museum, hoping that they will use this and do some kind of publication. No, if you give to scientists, he puts under himself, keeping for his future research. It's not Ara Papyan. I just sent 2 copies of one to a woman in Armenia, one to a guy abroad, that make them easy to do their research. These scientists are very usually jealous. They're trying to keep what they have for themselves because it's their bread. For me, it's not my bread. This is the one. I do not receive money for them. For them, they receive money, and they do not want to share this everything. But the problem is that $2 million will be given for engineering all these things, and Armenian statehood also will give millions and to some other thing. But when you say we have Matenadaran here for old manuscripts, we have to have another Matenadaran, or I don't know, Pasta Techtadaran, something to put there the political documents, as Aliyev is doing. Aliyev paying millions and millions of dollars, sending students, scientists all over the world to find out the documents in favor of Azerbaijan. They have published huge 5 volumes of documents on Karabakh and so on. And we have to do this. You are telling why they're not supporting. They do not support even themselves. Can you name something? Where in Karabakh, confrontation we are actually 30 years. Can you name a big volume of the documents for publication on Karabakh issue? The best one was done in 1990 during Soviet Armenia time, when this Karabakh movement began. After that, we have 2-3 small books, nothing. Even being, this has also, because Armenians, they do not believe in law. It's some kind of Soviet-Russian approach, saying that Menak Zenkovka, Hayot's percussion, and so I'm telling, if Menak Zenkovka, we cannot do anything. With Zenkov, we are weaker than our neighbors, because they spend 10 times more money buying weapons, and money speaks, because you can be clever, you can be smart, you can be brave, but when the drone comes over you, or a missile, you can not do anything.
Yeah.
And to do this, you have to buy or create something modern. But also you have to create the legal opinion and public opinion. Why nobody supported Armenia during this war, 2020? Because everybody was understanding was that Azerbaijan is de-occupying the territories that belong to Azerbaijan, and Armenians had occupied. But we had to show them that they rightfully belong to Armenia. The title of Karabakh was decided by the Special Commission of League of Nations, and it's Armenian. Actually, Karabakh was occupied in 1920 by Russian 11th Army, was given to Azerbaijan during all Soviet time, and what we were doing after collapse of the Soviets, we were de-occupying, liberating our lands that legally belong to Armenia. Because we didn't do anything, the approach, the attitude was the understanding, and nobody supported us.
Well,
And as this is, because I'm doing research in Woodrow Wilson and other issues, not only because of the part with Turkey, also with Azerbaijan as well. And this is our everyday life.
man, it's just so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Can you imagine me in my situation that I have to face this situation every day, and other problems, many other problems.
Like,
but I'm not losing my hope.
you know, like,
I will do. It's my mission. You have to do this.
you know, I don't know.
Regardless what will happen in future, we need to have all these documents prepared. We have to do our homework. When 15 years ago I began doing this research, I was told US and Turkey are so close that it's always United States will support Turkey and so on. I will tell you, let's do our homework and we'll see.
Yeah.
And now you see that they are more and more confronting each other. There was a piece of information that in Syria, Turkish forces has bombed some kind of US facilities and so on. This going on, this tension will grow. And this is where we have to give into American hands their documents. It's not our documents. As a big hammer to hit over them because they will need to punish Turks. And then we, in a way, will have our share in this success. First, Kurds will be created an independent Kurdistan, but if we will be smart or will be prepared, we'll get our share. If not, our fatherland from Turks will go to Kurds.
Pashinyan already threw the monkey wrench. He says we have no demand, but the Kurds are demanding and fighting every day. They never give up. Syria for 10 years, 11 years is fighting. We fought 45 there. We said, oops, you know, because I personally believe the war was designed, engineered by Pashinyan and Aliyev to fail, but that's another subject. Yeah, you know, like about lots of Armenians now, they're speaking against this genocide. They're speaking exactly like that. What is that actor, you know, with the funny hair? I don't know his name.
Yeah.
He was video.
His nickname is Yoj Sergei Danielyan.
Yes, he was speaking exactly the way Erdogan was saying, we massacre Armenian because they joined the Russian. This is the guy he's telling in his video. He's saying because Tashnak. So he's throwing on Tashnak, saying Tashnak was joined the Russians. So that's why the Turk massacre. I mean, the problem is in Armenia is just exaggerating.
Yes, because they give public TV to these guys, not to me. And these are not specialists. They do not know that the decision to exterminate Armenians was taken even before the war.
Exactly.
That there were a lot of other reasons. There was an ideology of pan-Islamism, pan-Turanism, pan-Turkism, and so many things. There are documents there, and Armenians were fighting. Yes, they were conscripted into Russian army, and 250,000 Armenians were fighting in Russian army, but mainly against Germans in Western Front. Only some 6,000 Armenians were in Caucasus, but 180,000 Armenians were taken into Ottoman army as well, and Armenians were fighting in Ottoman army against Ottoman enemies. In Gallipoli battle and so on, we know very brave Armenians. But what happened to that Armenians? Mainly they were taken to
Labor camp.
far away and killed. The idea was to kill them, to have Armenians be without fighting power. Also, what is April 24? It's beheading Armenian people.
Yeah.
Just they took the intelligence and everything. But the problem in Armenia now, we have very unfortunate situation when everybody thinks that he is an historian, everybody thinks that he is a specialist of international law. I read every day these Facebook statements, some kinds of they have read just 2 books within their life, but they will speak with you, they will discuss with you, and so on, and you cannot prove anything. Because also these guys are motivated because they feel that somebody up there is looking for them, and if they will repeat what they want to hear, they will get some favors, and they are getting favors. You can see that a guy will get some money from government for his movie, another guide for renovation of his theater, and so on.
You know, you could always hear in Armenia, unfortunately, from the prime ministers and presidents, everybody saying, well, the world, nobody recognized Karabakh. But then nobody even denied it. That's why there was Minsk group. So, you know, like they justifying the Turkish narrative, but not Armenian narrative. And this is why when every time I watch, I go crazy. But which country who said that you are Armenia is occupying? They never said that, you know. But then Armenians are saying that. Anyway, so before you go, we are 1 hour now.
Just me clarify the situation. Karabakh was recognized as part of the Republic of Armenia. It's called tacit recognition because the embassies in Yerevan were giving visas to people from Karabakh. And you can give the visas only to the citizens of the country where you are accredited and to live on their territory. With this move, they showed they have recognized as part of Armenia. I am also against recognition of independence of Karabakh. For what? Why Shirak not to be an independent or Sunni or Lori? Let's have 10 Armenian states and so on. No, Karabakh was Armenian according international law. It was recognized by other countries after 90 was as part of Armenia and so on. But you see, Pashinyan speaks what he wants to speak. Everybody will support him. Some of not, but the second ones not will be given any microphone to speak out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have over 1 hour. We need to. I'll talk to you when we close this. Don't go away. I thank you very much for coming. We throw in other stuff too, but as Woodrow Wilson story, it's very interesting. I always interested in that. But we'll talk. I have a couple of things, to suggest to you.
And just I want to add, you were asking, on PayPal, there is an account, Modus Vivendi Center. Modus Vivendi Center. It's our center. And if somebody wants to do donations, they can go and donate to Modus Vivendi Center how much they want.
Okay, well, send us that link, all that. And
I will send.
And then
I will send you.
We'll attach it. Yeah, well. So I'll give you like 30 seconds. You could finish it, and then we'll close it.
Okay, stay hopeful. I am sure that in the world there are many positive changes for us, regardless of our authorities in Armenia. The West is paying more attention to South Caucasus. Turkey is becoming closer to Russia and will create a lot of problems with him. We need to be prepared. We need to be ready for new order which will be created in Near East within these 5-10 coming years. This will be a window of opportunities. If we lose totally.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you took your time. I know you were very busy today, all over the place.
You are welcome.
Yeah, it's your knowledge is very important for Armenians. But stay there for a minute. Don't go away.
Okay.
For our viewers, thank you for watching. As you could see, the man is a library of information, is a treasure, and Armenian must use his brain, his talent, or his advice, not to have an idiot like Pashinyan just go decide, oh, well, we don't need our land from Turkey. Diaspora is the locomotive for things. And this is the problem. We need people like Ara Papyan to explain and do all this stuff. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in next episode. Have a nice day.